Right now, I think the zero waste goal is pretty hard, but I mean once there are big changes done to these things, I'm sure that someday we
I
could.
think there's far too much plastic and styrofoam, and I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough recycling bins and recycling places in Vancouver. And it's, I go to places like Burnaby, and they've got this, this little lot, and they've got these great big bins, and you drive up and you divide your plastics, your soft plastics, and your hard plastics, and your metals, and you drop off your microwaves and your fridges, and we don't have that in Vancouver. It's just, I think Vancouver it's really behind, and I think their money is spent somewhere else.
In response to this degraded air quality, the Greater Vancouver Regional District, and now more recently Metro Vancouver, have mounted a series of air quality management plans. Those plans have been designed to reduce the emissions of substances which cause this ozone pollution. It is important to realize that the air quality management plans are the legislative instruments that lead to the reduction in emissions. And those air quality management plans have been excellent. They've resulted in a reduction of roughly 30% by total mass of smog-forming emissions. Those emission reductions have come about through efforts of all of the citizens in the valley. Buying more efficient appliances, recycling paints, reducing general combustion, which produces NOx. So the citizens have been led by those air quality management plans and have so reduced the total emissions of smog-forming substances.
The problem with diversion is that it really does put a huge responsibility onto residents. And I think that right now, I believe our diversion rate is about 55%. So it's about a 15% increase by 2015. And given that it's only 5 years, I think that is reasonable. I think that they should be shooting for a higher goal by 2020, once people start to get used to this change in behavior.
Oh, absolutely, we can go for more. Right now, the City of Vancouver is committed to 70% by 2015 and 80% by 2020. And at the very least, I think the Metro Van can commit to the same level of target as the City of Vancouver has.
But that's a realistic goal if Metro Vancouver puts their resources in the right place. What they really should be doing, I think, is using their resources to increase composting and recycling and actual reduction. It is a tangible target, but I think they're just approaching it from a different direction.
I also thought that the idea of at least matching the volume of waste per capita that's generated across Canada is actually even more important, because instead of looking at how much we divert once the waste is actually created, either by landfilling, by recycling or composting, that's part of the solution. But really the problem is just the amount of garbage that we're producing to begin with. So the best way to actually get to zero waste is to produce less waste. And part of that's in the way that things are manufactured. But also part of that is in our own behavior.
I think Metro Vancouver is going to run into a situation where if they continue to divert waste, we're not going to have enough waste to fuel the incinerators that are being built with that plan. And then what happens? Are we supposed to be importing waste? And if so, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the Zero Waste International Committee has a different definition of zero waste as Metro Vancouver does. And the International Committee says that burning or burying garbage is not a way to zero waste, whereas Metro Vancouver's Zero Waste Challenge actually does incorporate burning. So they're using this waste to energy facility as a means to get down to their zero waste, which I don't think is right, because it's not actually reducing our waste to get to zero, it's just hiding it.
I don't think that this is the right plan for Metro Vancouver at present. I think that it is an appealing plan in economically, and I think that the problem is the fact that a lot of these plans revolve around the political spectrum, and it means that a lot of politicians don't want to create bigger costs because that causes problems when they're trying to get reelected.
Yeah.
That being said, is that going to be the best solution for Metro Vancouver? No, I don't think so. I think we need to go towards something very different.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, this is a 4-point plan that the Waste Management Committee's put forward, which incorporates, diversion targets, extended producer responsibility stuff, greater recycling and composting. So, there are some good things in the first 2 points. But then when you get to point 3, there's this giant elephant in the room of incineration. And I can tell you that if you go to these public consultations, 90-some-odd% of what's talked about is going to be incineration. So it really is just taking up a lot of staff time, a lot of resources, and it's going to completely overwhelm the public consultation process, which would be much better spent actually looking at dealing with the stuff that we don't have a solution to right now. Those plastics and those other materials that make their way into a landfill that we don't have a solution for right now, that's where our energy should go. That's the stuff that we need to figure out a solution for. That's the real problem. So, simply just burning that away is actually locking us into the problematic scenario instead of actually coming up with a solution for it.